Gayan, who is a Director of Strategy at Edotco, and he's going to take us through on this agenda item.
Hello everybody. So it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I try to keep you reasonably entertained. When you check into JW Marriott, you normally stay any of the hotels in the JW Marriott Street. We call it Bintang Walk. You spend about 3 days, technically 3.5. And what if I tell you that you have, of the 3 nights, one of the nights you will probably have street food. And if you were to have a geofencing of 1,000 meters around this hotel, and there is 80% probability you will stay within these parameters. How do I know these intimate details about you? The reason is that while you are seated there and while I'm standing here, there are some data scientists in somewhere else analyzing your behavior and my behavior, trying to monetize us. So what's happening now in Malaysia is that average Malaysians spend roughly, sorry. How do you go back? Can you go back to the beginning? Sorry. Sorry about that. So average Malaysians spend about roughly 6 hours and 20 minutes, about 13 GB a customer a month this year. And we used to be about 3 years ago going to be about 5 GB a customer a month. And average person sleep only about 5.5 hours. So technically this year we look at the screen more than we sleep. And of the awake time of 18, 1/3 of the time is you're looking at the screen. So people can assess your behavior by looking at the phone. And 1/3 of your behavior is explained to the screen. If you look at your right or left, there are more chances we are somebody looking at the phone. Don't stop, because I'm in the industry, because every time you look at the phone, we make money out of it. But the reality is that this is growing. So world as a whole have 15 exabyte. Let me explain the exabyte. Exabyte is a 1 billion GB. Avengers Endgame is about 1 GB, which you know. So about 1 billion of them, 1 into 3, 1 into 9 digits. So the 15 exabyte is the total annual consumption in the world. Malaysia is about 5.4 exabyte this year alone. Now the question is, when industry is growing, the data is consumed more, we keep on building, the regulators are here, the MNOs are here, software companies are here, infra companies like us here, we keep on building. Why we are not going ahead with 5G? 5G has been ready for the last 6 years. The 5G is a gold mine for RF planners, the frequency decoupling. You can have various spectrum to uplink and downlink. You can beamforming. You can have high-speed data instead of 100 Mbps. You can business case. If one thing that couple of use cases of digital health or digital education platform going to pay, let me give you numbers. Total OPEX in the Malaysian market is $3.5 billion if the 3 telcos put together. And if I were to put up another network on top of that, 1.5 billion to be invested on it. Limited coverage on 3.5 gigahertz. It will not pay for it. 3 months from now, just imagine, 3 months from now, and never going to be paid as such. So if you want to make it a mass market, be sensitive towards Gen Z. So that's the argument I'm going to build here. Prior to that, let's talk about our sponsors. So we are Edotco. We are into 6 markets. We just recently launched into Philippines. We own and operate about 20,000 towers and own and operate manage about 30,000 towers. So if you look at these 6 markets, 3 in South Asia and 3 in Southeast Asia, we are about roughly 500 million population. And the beauty of Edotco 20,000 or 30,000 portfolio is that 70% of the 500 population is within 3 to 5 kilometers of our tower. This is a tower where we have truck rolling, we have electricity, we have connectivity. That's the position of power. So I was talking to a GSMA community development team, and you guys can speak to us about our reach and what we can do with you. Now, with this reach, if you look at the globally, total tower percentage, I mean, world as a whole have about 4.7 million towers, 2 million in China, 500,000 in India, and then the rest. So 69% of the total towers are currently owned by independent tower companies, including India and China. Now, the problem is not that. The problem is that total data consumption is 5.3 GB a customer a month, going to be 24 GB a customer a month. If I give you the Malaysian numbers, that 5.3 is 13 GB a customer. And we are moving into 1 GB a day, which is 30 GB a customer by end of 2021. And the world's richest companies are no longer oil companies or banks. World's richest companies are Microsoft, Amazon and all that. Those are 1,000 billion companies, are digital companies. And these digital companies need to carry the traffic through the telcos. So one side we have a telco, then there's a business case, then there's huge demand out of it. How do we demystify that? So just want to break this down for you. So globally we have 7.8 billion cellular customers as we speak. 1/3 of that is in 2G, 1/3 of that is in 3G, and 1/3 of that is in 4G. That's 2.5 billion each. Now that is disproportionate in the 5G, and based on GSMA forecast, we are no longer going to have 1/4 of the 9.3 billion as we go forward. What we are expecting is a minimum number in 5G. The reason is that we haven't found the business case behind that. There won't be mass scale deployment. Look at the area which I am boxed, 100 Mbps. We are going to give you 10,000 Mbps, which is like 10 Gbps, which means that Avengers movie will be downloaded less than 1 second. And the millisecond factor, 40 millisecond, full round trip will take about 40 millisecond. We are down to under 10 millisecond as we go forward. The problem is not that. The problem is what I show at the bottom. When we are moving into 5G, you need more energy requirement. 2 kilowatt, I mean, normally you have 2G, 3G, and 4G, is 2 kilowatt. If we add the 5G layer on top of that, regardless whether it's 3.5 or millimeter range, we need about 4 to 6 a kilowatt. And uptime requirement is 999, which means that downtime, moving from 4G to 5G, a month, move from 4 minutes a month to 0.4 minutes a month. I cannot have a site energy out 0.4 minutes a month in the 5G environment. What is critical is not that. The critical is in a dense urban location of 1,000 meter by 1,000 meter, in a 4G environment, you need 15 to 20 collection points, POPs, we call it. In 5G environment, you need 200 of them. There are street furniture, balcony mounted, small cells in buildings. So you have about 200 of them. The question is, who's going to pay for that massive expansion? But there are end use cases. I mean, things you can do in 4G, and some of them can be go to 4G as well, 4K videos and stuff like that. Now, these are the statistics we put together. In our 6 home markets, if I were to add up total number of towers in 500 million population market, we have 120,000. We own about 30,000 of them, which means that 1/4 of the 120,000 towers are belonging to Edotco. But if you look at that particular column, say for example Malaysia, so currently we have 22,000. We added roughly about 2,000 over the last 2 years. Probably are going to be 2,400 towers, 24,000 towers. Look at the numbers. We need 6,200 new structures in 4G environment, and we need another 7,000 structures if I were to have a minimum coverage in 3.5 selected towns. That add up to roughly about 13,000. So you need 13,000, half of the towers you have right now, if you were to go for the next 7 years. That's not only the fact. The energy requirement, if I were to add up all that column, that's about 130 megawatts, what we have. You need 3 times of the megawatt requirement as you go forward. So one side you need twice as much as towers, the other time you need 3 times of energy when it comes to the 5G. I'm talking about not industrial 4.0. In the decade starting in 2022 to 2030, you will have industrial 5.0 going to happen, where there will be an interaction between machine and the human. So the Gen Zs will be more interested connecting the dots between machine to machine. So e-health, I need to have a predictive analytics model where the Gen Z will ask, look at my behavior and tell me what to do. If there's a collapse of me, somebody should trigger in the hospital, come and pick me up. This industrial revolution 5.0 going to happen in 2020 decade. And 5G going to fit into that. And Gen Z going to be the consumers of that. So these are the end use cases we have. I'm not going to bore you with these statistics, where you have mobility and the current QoS has been given even in the 4G environment. What 5G gives you is that high throughput, millisecond factor, and massive connectivity on that. Now, who are the end use cases? Enterprise, government, and the Gen Z. There are many use cases about enterprise, there are many use cases about government. But here I'm talking about Gen Z, who's going to be a third of your total consumers and half of the data consumption by 2025. Let's break it down for you. So what is the Gen Z's means that somebody who was born after 1995? And what are the key characteristics of the person? If you have a son or a daughter who is a teenager, she or he is no longer going to be biased or opinion of you. She or he will have opinion by herself. He or she will be communicating all the time. She wants to resort to you asking your opinion all the time, so that she will have her own view. She's self-dependent, self-aware, and a realistic person. This is the generation where for the first time, the Gen Z will be not going to be better off than the previous. So in this generation, everything on OpEx base. They will not buy a car, there is no house. In fact, they will hire an apartment without a kitchen or a garage. And that's the generation we are looking at. And we have worked out the maths. Average Malaysian in a Gen Z, this is the next numbers we've run, the per capita income for them in 2025 will be about 3,500 ringgit. That's about $800 US, the entry level. Now, of the 3,500, 10% of that, which is 350 ringgit or about $80 US, will be spent on digital entertainment and connectivity. Not just connectivity, it's a digital entertainment and the connectivity. So what is digital entertainment means? It will be Netflix and all the other stuff, what we have there, including the e-gaming. Of the 350 ringgit, they will spend 10% of that, which is 1% of their total earning only in the communication, which is 35 ringgit. So the question is, are we ready to provide unlimited data, 3 Gbps in a speed, Netflix and Spotify, everything inside that 35 ringgit or 8 ringgit number? So if I were to work the maths, so if you were to divide the total 8 ringgit by, on average, Gen Z will consume 30 GB a customer a month, the magical number or goal seek number is $0.25. You need to be manufacturing and selling GB at $0.25 or 1 ringgit. That will be the end game. What's the number right now? Is 1.5. If you were to add up Digimaxi Celcom, assuming that traditional businesses will never going to exist at some point in time, SMS and stuff like that, and the total industry cost, which is 4.5 billion capex included, if you remove capex, it will be 3.5, divided by the 5 exabyte we are consuming this year, is going to get to $1.4. So $1.4 of a GB per customer a month has to come down to 0.25. Is that remotely possible? So let's look at, we are in the GSMA. 2G made money, no question about it. Investment has been recovered. You go to any board, have a conversation, yeah, 2G made money. 3G, I'm not too sure. The exorbitant prices they paid for spectrum and where they are in terms of deployment, where there is no upgrade path towards the technology, 3G is no longer an investment recovery. 4G yet to be recovered. Malaysia, we have 8,000 sites for each operator, Digimaxis and Celcom, and they put their 4G equipment in almost all their sites only in Q1 2018. So we are only about 1.5 years old. We're going to recover over the next 4 years' time before we think about 5G. And if you think about the timeline, it took 10 years to recover, 9 years. So between the Gs, the time gap is getting smaller and smaller. This is Malaysian numbers. So industry as a whole, if you look at the chart on the right, on the left of you, the total industry revenue is about $5.6 billion. About 3.5 is the OPEX portion, 1 billion is the CAPEX portion. And this $5.6 billion is the same number we had in 2012. And we are being stagnating. So as much as we put the money behind it, it doesn't reflect in the revenue. This is a chart I want to share with you. There is one chart for you to remember from this presentation. Remember this chart. Over the period of time, we are now at $1.4 per GB, and our revenue per GB is about 0.9. So there's a gap between revenue and the cost. Here I am assuming that the total cost of the network is allocated to data network. The conventional business will disappear at some point in time. And we are 9.4 GB customer a month last year, and this year is 13. Now you might ask the question, so this volume goes up and this crack will merge and we are going to be happy. No. The higher the data volume, you need to put more data in terms of sites and stuff like that. The cost curve will go up. So this is a never submerging or emerging crack. That crack going to be there forever. So how it works is that there are two boxes here. One is 2G and 3G box, which is the money invested over the last many years. Then you have 4G and 5G. So 2G and 3G keep on funding 4G and 5G, and then 4G and 5G will create the growth. So this vicious circle continues. The traditional business pay for the new businesses who doesn't make money, and they create the growth, and the rest of the people keep continuing that. So this is the vicious circle, unless you are Geo India. Geo India invests $24 billion. So there is no 2G, 3G, a bucket. The money came from outside to create the 4G, 5G case. So what's happening right now is that the traditional business, so long it continues, will keep on feeding and funding 4G and 5G. So pay attention to this. So today in 2018, I'll go very slow on these numbers. We have data usage, 9.4 GB a customer a month. We have 35 million data connection in Malaysia, which convert to 4 exabyte. And total cost is 4.5. 3.5 come from OPEX and 1 billion coming from CAPEX allocation per annum. That cost per GB is 1.4, right? So that's the current cost allocation. Target is 0.25. For the next 7 years, till 2025, if everybody want to build network by themselves, Digimaxis, Celcom put together, they build their 4G network, next level, and they build the pocket coverage for 5G, you need 15,000 more sites. And each 15,000 sites, you put the CAPEX behind structures, active equipment, edge computing and all that. It's going to be additional 1.5 billion to be invested. So the total cost will move from 4.6 billion to 6 billion. And then the cost per GB is about 0.4. So 1.4 become 0.4. We are not there until the point where the Gen Z is wanting. Gen Z want to bring all the way down to 0.25. If we want to go deeper the market, deeper the sharing, where we will not build 15,000 towers, instead we will build 7,000 towers, and the current tower portfolio also to be shared, then we can get to the 0.25 magical number. Ladies and gentlemen, in this market, it's a goal seek. We need to demystify the goal seek, and the goal seek number is 0.25. That's only possible by deepening the sharing. So this is the breakdown of how we are bridging the gap between 0.4 and 0.25. So this is the further calculation here. So if you look at from top to bottom, infra sharing, densification has to be shared. Fiber companies, we had a conversation earlier, they need to come into play because in Malaysia, about 20% of the towers are fiberized. We have 80% broadband penetration. There is a disproportionate percentage between the two. And there has to be some active O&M as well. Now, this is our small effort in building digital company in this country.
In the mobile broadband data-hungry world that we're living in today, basically huge amounts of data are being processed and calculated within seconds, and this requires a stable and also a reliable network.
We live in an age where data demand is always on the rise. Mobile phone keeps people connected from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed and everything they do in between. As connectivity providers, we want to serve customers with better coverage but also better capacity wherever they are.
At Edotco, we have a solution to provide, and that is called Street Furniture Solution. In Street Furniture Solution, whereby telecommunication equipment such as small cells antenna are being camouflaged and installed together with street objects such as dustbin, lampposts, traffic lights, bus stop, manholes, to name a few.
The usage of street furniture provides us with another option that allows us to roll out infrastructure in key cities where density is a challenge in a manner that is aesthetically pleasing and in a manner which blends in seamlessly with the overall look of the city.
So we work closely together with the Penang State Government and also the Seberang Perai Municipality to implement the Smart Bus Stop. The Smart Bus Stop is a solution that basically caters for the end user needs in terms of coverage and capacity. In addition towards that, it has safety features such as panic button, digital signage, CCTV, Wi-Fi, and also power charging. Within this solution, we work closely with the municipality, local council, and authorities to ensure that the aesthetic value of the site is taken care of. In addition towards that, we work with mobile network operators to ensure that basically the capacity and coverage of the sites are catered for. At the end of the day, it's a win-and-win situation for all parties involved.
We are thrilled with this collaboration between mobile network service providers, city councils, and state governments to be able to explore new solutions like this, especially as Malaysia and the rest of the world move into an exciting era of 5G, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things.
What's a commercial model for 5G? So what could be the commercial model? That's the conversation they all had, right? So if you were to develop a network with 3.5 gigahertz, there are two extremes out of it, right? Unless you are Geo, please don't build network on your own. That's not going to pay for it. So the one extreme end of it is that you do a MNO-led 5G, and there has to be a planning support. You can't have a independent operator. A network as a service, we can invest on active equipment and with the bandwidth and plug and play. But there could be a hybrid strategy where neutral party could build outside the capitals. So the MNOs can continue to own Klang Valleys and Penang and the capitals, and the peripheries could be owned, operated, leased by the independent party. So what could Edotco do in each of the cases? We can do a network planning as a service. If you go outside, in our Edotco booth, we are doing geo-hashing. Before the operator come and tell us that what location is required, you probably know which location you might require. So that planning is done. So that planning as a service. And why we want to stop at DC power meter level, we can go up to antenna as a service, as long as the antennas could be shared. And we are moving into shareable small cell, OFN as a service, and alternative structures of bus stop, underground, stuff like that. And finally, the 5G is going to happen at the street level. So they're working with the municipal councils, is critically important on that, and smart cities and edge computing. So here I am calling upon the industry to see if 5G is going to be a reality, you need to extend the sharing beyond what we are. So TowerCo model is moving from simple tower to the energy to tower, power, antenna as a service, edge computing, and so forth. So there's something I want to share finally. We got to change how we think about it. The game of 2G, 3G, 4G has been a golf game, where when you pass the 18 holes, you win. That's why you have number 1 operator in the market, number 2 and 3. Whereas 5G game is like soccer, like a team. You have to bring the goal from A to B, find that goal. Imagine somebody playing golf in a soccer match. Thank you very much.
Okay, then you've all now earned a well-earned break, so please go outside and take some coffee or tea and